Amid the teacups of a Kurdish cafe in London, two men who've spent months fighting alongside Syrian rebels and yet who haven't been arrested upon their return. Mesa Gifford on the left is 28 and from Cambridgeshire. Jack Holmes, just 22 and from Dorset. And despite no military background, they're volunteers in the war against so-called Islamic State.
I was just sitting at my desk in London in a very ordinary job, watching the rise of the Islamic State and just utterly appalled at them, at the ideology, appalled that the British government, the American government had no plan and still has no plan to combat them and wanting to make a difference.
Did you go out there for an adventure because it's more exciting than Bournemouth where you're from?
No, definitely not. I mean, I went out there to help people. I went out there to be on the ground in Syria with the Kurds, fighting against the evil, which is trying to overrun them and kick them out of their territory and slaughter them and enslave them.
Photographs from their Facebook pages might suggest they're war junkies on a gap year, living out some gun-toting fantasy. And both admit their publicity value to Kurdish YPG guerrillas is worth more than their military prowess. But they have risked their lives on the front line, alongside 100 or so other foreigners, after training for just 1 month. And their commitment to the Kurdish cause is beyond doubt.
If you need shoes, whatever, they'll give it to you. Obviously, you don't pay for ammunition or weapons or food or anything.
Don't they think to themselves, what are these foreigners doing here? We can do this ourselves. And some of them haven't had any military experience and are more harm than good.
I would think there probably is some who think like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of Kurdish YPG fighters who've had very minimal training themselves. So they're not really in any position to sort of judge anyone in that way.
So it's all hands to the pump?
Yeah, basically everyone is going full on, whether they've been a fighter for 5 years or whether they've been a fighter for a month.
It was the YPG who recaptured Kobane in Syria after a fierce and totemic battle involving American airstrikes. This week they helped take the town of Sarin, fighting a ground war against ruthless jihadists which no foreign army has dared undertake.
They've liberated most of the land that's been taken from ISIS over the past few years. So if we really do want to take the fight to ISIS, we need to be supporting the Kurds, and we shouldn't allow Turkey to hijack the fight and to stop America from doing the right thing.
He talks of Turkey hijacking the fight because since last week the Turks have been bombing the YPG's Kurdish allies, the PKK in Iraq. They've also been bombing IS for the first time, but with nothing like the ferocity aimed at Kurdish fighters. The Turks have agreed to let the Americans attack IS from this Turkish airbase. They've also agreed with Washington the outline of a so-called safe zone in Syria for rebels and refugees. But look at how it keeps Kurdish-controlled areas of Syria apart. It's as if the success of these Kurdish fighters has brought Turkey into this war, perhaps at least as much as the threat posed by IS.
The Turkish state has been criticised for its very porous border, let's say, the fact that arms and trade and people have flooded across the border when the Islamic State's controlled the border. As soon as the Kurds start taking control, that's when things become a problem, and that's when Turkey rises to action, which obviously calls into question what their true motives are.
Both men left Syria last month, and they're now contemplating their possible return, despite the death of Costa Skirfield, an ex-Royal Marine who was killed fighting in March, and despite the concern of relatives and friends.
But there's no reason why we should be there. There's no reason technically why we should care, because anything that happens there, unless ISIS sort of does an attack in England or something like that, it's not going to affect us in any way. And they know that. Even the fighters who don't speak English, they know that. So they're really appreciative of people going over there, leaving their life behind, leaving their family behind, and risking their life to fight for them.
And if they do go back, the irony is that many more Britons will be fighting on the other side, the side of IS. Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, North London.